A major legal decision has shaken former President Donald Trump's trade policy. A U.S. federal court has blocked most of the tariffs imposed during his administration, ruling they were unconstitutional. The decision comes as a significant blow to one of Trump's key economic strategies, using steep tariffs to pressure foreign governments and revive U.S. manufacturing. New York Attorney General Letitia James celebrated the ruling, calling it a major victory for working families, businesses, and the rule of law. She emphasized that the president cannot ignore the Constitution and impose massive tax hikes on the American people. But not everyone agrees. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller slammed the ruling on social media, warning of what he called a judicial coup. In Australia, economists are reacting with concern. Tim Harcourt, chief economist at the University of Technology and former chief economist of the Australian Trade Commission, said the court's intervention could provoke Trump politically. "I don't like tariffs and want to see them gone," Harcourt explained, but the sort of legal interference in the elected president's actions can backfire.
Well, in some ways, they'll be relieved because it might give us an opportunity to, end the trade war that is ongoing with the US and China and EU and so on. On the other hand, the courts interfering in the process can be provocative to President Trump. As much as I don't like tariffs and want to see them gone, the sort of legal interference in the elected president of the day, I think can backfire. So I'm a little bit worried about it, even though obviously I'd prefer there not to be tariffs. It's interesting because the court has said that the president sort of overstepped in that he used emergency powers being trade deficits, which, are really not an emergency at all in economics. But that probably means, perhaps if he puts economic sanctions on Russia or Iran, to what extent can the courts interfere in that? They may decide that sanctions is of geopolitical significance, but tariffs are not. So it does get us into some murky waters, I think, legally into what's the role of the president and the Congress as opposed to the courts.
It might fuel even stronger reactions from his supporters. Harcourt also warned that the ruling could create murky legal waters, especially if similar decisions begin to affect other U.S. sanctions or economic policies.
We don't know with appeals, do you? Because I imagine there'd be appeal to this court and then an appeal to the Supreme Court, so it could take a long time. I mean, if it does, courts move pretty slowly, so perhaps whilst there's a lull and no tariffs, perhaps some deals can be done globally, and we can get a bit of relief and have people see the folly of their ways. Really, in some ways, you got to remember China started the trade war, tariffs on Australia, for instance, that they put on wine and barley and wood and timber and so on. So it's not just Trump putting tariffs on. There's a number of nations, including China, doing it. My fear is it's just a provocative act by activist judges, which, immigration, trade, whatever you think of the actual policies, once the judges decided they should get involved, then it can be actually quite provocative and counterproductive. And that's the concern I have, that could, basically provoke the administration into even bigger action.
From the University of Sydney, senior lecturer Vladimir Tyaz-Helnikov noted that Trump may use this court decision to his political advantage. He built much of his campaign around tariffs, he said. Now that they've been overruled, he can blame the courts for sabotaging his agenda, something that could resonate with his base.
He built a big part of his electoral campaign based on tariffs, and he did introduce tariffs. Now tariffs were overruled, and I suspect that politically he can now blame the court for the failure of this policy. So I am not sure whether it will be a major blow to his political standing and to his support.
Tyaz-Helnikov also expressed concern over whether the administration will comply with the ruling, saying, "This is uncharted territory. There's already been tension between the courts and this administration, and the future remains uncertain."
It is very hard to predict what will happen and what happens if, for example, the administration chooses not to comply with the ruling of the court. We have seen tension between court rulings and the current administration in the past. So it is, again, uncharted waters, very hard to tell what is happening, but at least this round, the administration and Donald Trump did not win. It definitely creates some certainty in the future, and industries and countries that were not subject to tariffs or not subject to high tariffs, they can sleep a little bit better tonight, and markets, they do react negatively when uncertainty increases and vice versa. So from this point of view, maybe it is not only about the economic effect of tariffs, but it is also about the rules that the US and the rest of the world are playing are established more firmly. We have more understanding of what to expect from tomorrow.
While Trump's legal team plans to appeal the ruling, experts suggest it could take months, or even years, before a final resolution is reached. In the meantime, the decision offers a temporary break in the trade war, potentially opening the door for global trade negotiations. But the bigger picture remains complex. As Harcourt pointed out, it's not just Trump. China, too, has imposed tariffs on Australia, on wine, barley, timber, and more. This ruling might give all sides a moment to rethink their strategies. As markets watch for the fallout and the Trump camp prepares for a potential showdown at the Supreme Court, one thing is clear: America's trade policies are once again at the center of global attention.